All right, today we're heading to a town on the English-Welsh border that feels, well, it feels like it's literally frozen in time. We're talking about Ludlow. This is a place where history isn't tucked away in museums. Nope, it's right there, etched into every single stone and timber on its ancient streets.
So, let's just start with a pretty huge claim, shall we? The famous poet Sir John Betjeman once called Ludlow probably the loveliest town in England. I mean, that's some seriously high praise, but is it just a pretty face, or is there something more going on here?
And when you look at it from above, you can see that classic medieval layout, right? You've got this powerful castle just perched on a cliff, and the whole town is huddled right up next to it, almost like it's seeking protection. It looks, well, it looks perfect. But that's the real question, isn't it? How did it stay this way? What is the secret to its incredible preservation? That's the big mystery we're going to try and solve today.
So, is it really England's loveliest town? Let's dig into the evidence and find out.
And right off the bat, the first piece of evidence is, well, it's just staggering. We're talking about nearly 500 officially listed historical buildings. Now just think about that for a second. That is an insane concentration of history, all crammed together on one small hill. You know, to really get Ludlow, you have to start where it all began. And that's with the massive fortress that just looms over the town. This was a castle built right on the frontier of a nation. And this thing was not just any old castle. It was built by a Norman lord just after the conquest, around 1075, making it one of the very first stone castles in all of England. Its main job? To be a serious bastion of power, holding the line on what they called the Welsh Marches. And you gotta understand, this was the often violent, kind of lawless frontier between England and Wales. And the castle's journey over the centuries is just remarkable. I mean, look at this. It starts out as this brutal military fortress, but then it transforms into a royal palace, a real seat of government. It even managed to survive the English Civil War, pretty cleverly I might add, by just surrendering, which saved it from being totally destroyed. By the 1800s, its time as a powerhouse was over, and it became this beautiful, romantic ruin that we can still see today.
Okay, so this is the really crucial part. During its golden age, Ludlow was so much more than just a market town. Get this. For 2 centuries, the powerful Council of the Marches governed all of Wales and the border counties from right here, inside this castle. That basically made Ludlow the de facto capital of Wales.
And inside these walls, a human drama unfolded that would literally change the course of history. Prince Arthur Tudor, the heir to the throne, the older brother of the man who would become Henry VIII, died right here at just 15 years old. That one single tragic event completely flipped the line of succession. It's the reason his brother Henry became king, which led directly to, well, everything we know about his infamous reign and the English Reformation. And of course, a tragedy that huge, it's bound to leave a ghost behind.
All right, let's leave the castle for a bit and head down into the town streets, because they are hiding a pretty incredible architectural secret, a really clever sleight of hand that's been fooling people for centuries.
So, imagine you're walking down Broad Street. What you see are these elegant, beautifully proportioned Georgian townhouses. You know, they look very polite, very orderly, exactly what you'd expect from the 18th century.
But is that what's really going on here?
Well, the answer is something called refacing. See, back in the 18th century, tastes changed. All of a sudden, those medieval timber frames looked really old-fashioned. So what did the wealthy owners do? They just covered them up, slapped a brand new fashionable skin of brick or plaster right over the top.
And here is the big reveal. What you think you're seeing, this perfect Georgian town, is actually a disguise. It's a fantastic illusion. Ludlow is at its heart a medieval town. It's just wearing a very convincing Georgian suit. The rugged ancient timber bones, they're still there, hiding just behind that polite, fashionable mask.
Now, all this prosperity, the huge castle, these grand houses, all that money had to come from somewhere, right? And whatever funded it also built the town's magnificent spiritual heart.
This is St. Lawrence's Church. It is so enormous and so grand that it's nicknamed the Cathedral of the Marches. Now, it's not technically a cathedral, but its sheer scale tells you everything you need to know about the kind of money that was flowing through this town. And where did that money come from? The immense profits of the medieval wool trade.
And this church is just packed with treasures. For starters, that massive tower dominates the whole skyline. Inside, you've got some of the most exquisite medieval stained glass in the entire country. But my personal favorite detail, it's hidden away in these carved wooden seats. They're called misericords. Check this out.
One of them actually shows a dishonest alewife being dragged off to hell by demons, all because she was watering down the beer. It's basically a medieval Yelp review carved right into the oak. The whole building is just full of stories like that. It's even the final resting place of the poet A.E. Housman. And it's just so fitting that right there at the foot of the church, you'll find the market square. It's been the town's bustling commercial heart for more than 900 years. It's that perfect link between faith and finance that has really defined Ludlow for centuries.
But you know, Ludlow isn't just about grand buildings and architecture. It's a town that's absolutely alive with human stories and folklore. You can almost hear the whispers from the past, hidden in the very stones.
Just take a look at one of the most famous timber-framed buildings in the world, the Feathers Hotel. This wasn't built just to be a house. Oh no, this was a statement. When a lawyer named Rhys Jones built this back in 1619, he was doing one thing: showing off. Every single piece of that expensive, intricately carved oak was designed to shout, "I am rich and I am important." And just like pretty much everything else in Ludlow, it has two very different stories. You've got the historical, architectural story. It's an absolute icon of Jacobean magpie design. And then you've got the legend, which says it's famously haunted. Apparently, you really want to watch out for room 211, where a jealous female spirit is said to be, let's just say, not very welcoming to other women.
But the town's biggest, most famous ghost story takes us all the way back to the castle. So the history part is that during the civil wars of the 12th century, the castle was a key strategic stronghold. The legend that's been woven into that history is the tragic tale of Marion de la Brière, the White Lady. The story goes that she betrayed the fortress to her lover, only to kill him and then leap from a tower in despair. And they say her ghost still haunts the ruins to this very day. Which finally brings us back to that central mystery we started with. How on earth was all of this preserved so perfectly? And the answer is almost unbelievable. It was a complete accident. You see, after its golden age, Ludlow's political importance just faded away. The Industrial Revolution completely passed it by. The town fell into a long period of economic stagnation. There was just no money for the kind of grand Victorian redevelopment that bulldozed the history of so many other English towns. So in a strange twist of fate, it was poverty that ended up preserving it. And that leaves us with one last, kind of provocative thought, doesn't it? It really makes you wonder, is it possible that sometimes the most valuable parts of our heritage aren't saved by careful planning and big, fancy projects, but simply by being forgotten, just long enough for us to come back and remember why they were so special in the first place?